Hello, one of the questions we get asked all the time is to explain how we work out the carb content in our chocolate. So I thought I'd make a little video to make it really clear because it is something that's not straightforward. It's not really that obvious either, but there's some really important things here, which is why we claim the total carbs, but also when you take away the sweetener, what the carbs are too. So let's just dive into that now. So I put together a really kind of simple presentation just to explain how this whole process works. On the left-hand side, we have your body full of blood. I don't know what's happening to your fingers, but anyway, this is your body full of blood. This is what's happening when you're eating. So you're going to just now look at your blood sugar levels. As you eat, for instance, a bar of dairy milk, the sugars inside that bar are now going to be digested and put into your bloodstream, and so your blood sugars will go up. Really dangerous, of course. We know prolonged high blood sugars cause many health outcomes which are not desirable. Long term, of course, it can be death. We can have infections, there can be inflammation, it can cause lots of damage to your body, and so the body will not let this happen for too long. It needs to store the energy, it needs to get it out of the bloodstream. Now, the body is very clever. It's a surviving machine, and it releases the hormone insulin. And insulin, when it comes along, will rise just behind the blood sugar. It will start to realize there's this rise in blood sugars, and the insulin will go up, and the insulin will then bring the blood sugar down. Now, where does it go? It doesn't just push it down somehow out the bottom of your body. No, it goes into your cells, and it will actually store the energy inside your cells. Now, insulin resistance is something we could talk about at this point, but I don't really want to go into that. For now, let's just say it stores sugar and fat, because it converts sugar into fat into your cells, and it stores it inside the body. So that's kind of the basic principle of why sugar generally is not good for you. I mean, I don't think anyone should eat sugar personally. We will get enough glucose for our brains from the rest of our diet. We just eat far too much sugar in the Western society. You need very little but to survive. So let's talk about the carbohydrate content. So are all carbs the same? This is really a big error that people make, and they'll say, oh, it's full of how many carbs? That's bad for you. Well, what is a carbohydrate? It can be many things. It can be fibre. Now, the interesting thing is that in the UK, we don't include this type of carbohydrate in our macronutrients, in our declarations. That's the law. You don't have to, because fibre is technically a carbohydrate, but it doesn't in any way increase your blood sugar levels. So for that reason, we don't include it. You've also got sugar as a carbohydrate, and of course that will increase, as we've seen already, your insulin levels. That is a problem for the body. And polyols. Now, this is another type of carbohydrate. It's actually what we use erythritol as a polyol, and our polyols, not all polyols, but our polyols will not spike insulin because it doesn't actually increase blood sugar levels. And so this is a carb, but it doesn't affect you, just like fibre doesn't affect you, sugar does. So not all carbs are the same, and that's a really important thing to remember. Now, let's just have a look at a little comparison between Great Britain and America, because I'm going to talk about net carbs, and this is something that a lot of people get confused by. We don't actually technically have net carbs in the UK, and in fact the Food Standards Agency are getting a bit more funny about this, so we are changing our declarations from net carbs to talk about non-polyol sweetener carbs, and I'll explain what that is. So in the US, let's just say you have a chocolate bar, and we're just going to add up all the different bits of carbohydrate, the different types in that chocolate bar. So firstly, we just got some like other carbohydrates, which are 10, let's say. Sugars are 20, so now in total we've got a total of 30 carbs. Fibre is another 10, so that's 40 carbs. Polyols are another 10. So in America, they declare the total carb count is 50, because they count, by law, fibre as a carbohydrate. In the UK, on the other hand, we would say, okay, so the other carbs are 10, let's just say. Sugars are 20. We don't include the 10 fibre, so we'll just leave that off completely. And it has 10 polyol carbs. And so we would say in the UK that the total carbs is 40. Now, this term net carbs actually means the total number of carbs minus fibre, because it's an American expression, and in America they include their fibre, but they know that fibre doesn't impact blood sugar. So when they look at their label, they'll say, well, we have to legally declare 50. However, we know this here doesn't make a difference, so we'll take it off. So the net carbs is 40. And then they'll say, and also the sweetener doesn't affect your blood sugar either, so we'll actually take that off, and we'll say the net carbs is actually 30. Okay, so these are the two carbs that affect your blood sugar. These are the two that don't. So you've got the total carbs, and also you've got over here the impact or net carbs, okay, on your blood sugar. In the UK, we're not legally allowed to say net carbs because we take fibre off anyway. That's just UK law. So, but then at the same time, we know polyols don't affect your blood sugar. But this is where our law hasn't caught up yet. I think one day they'll be able to say that we don't have to include this in our total declaration. But for now, we do. So we say our total carbs would be 40, and our non-polyol carbs or non-polyol sweetener carbs, the ones that are basically not going to impact your blood sugar, that would be 30 grams of carbohydrate. And I'll do this on an actual chocolate bar to break it down. So, of course, as you know, our chocolate is made with different sweeteners. Some of them are actually not sweeteners, like inulin is not a sweetener, it's a fibre we put in there. And as we know from the previous one, we don't include fibre, so we'd have to even declare that because that doesn't affect your blood sugar. It's actually a carbohydrate that doesn't affect your blood sugar at all. And in the UK, we don't declare that. We also use stevia, such a small amount because it's so potent. There's barely anything there, like in terms of carbohydrate substance. It's still declared, but it's tiny. And then the rest of the sweetener we use is a polyol carb called erythritol. So in one of our chocolate bars, this is what you'd break it down to. So let's look at the keto craft bar here. We've got total carbs 20.3 grams. That is what we legally declare because we have to, and that is including polyols, sugars, and any other carbs in there as well. Okay. Now fibre, we don't declare that because by UK law we don't have to. Polyols we do have to declare because that is actually part of UK law. That has to be part of the total, but it also will not affect your blood sugar. It doesn't have a glycemic index. It will not increase your blood sugars at all. So it's a really good carbohydrate to have because effectively it passes through you. It doesn't affect you. So polyol carbs there, 9.9. We still declare it because we have to legally, but it won't affect your blood sugar. Then, of course, we have sugars. Now, 8.2 grams, that's actually mostly lactose from the milk and cream powder. We use whey and cream powder to bring down the lactose, but still a little bit. So, yes, that will affect your blood sugar. For a whole bar, 8.2 grams is pretty much nothing. But that will, of course, affect it. So that's also part of this. Even though this doesn't affect it, it's part of this too. And any other carbohydrate, like, a little bit of stevia, the fact there might be a little bit of carbs in the cacao, all those little sort of excess things. I mean, 2.2 grams in a whole 100-gram bar is nothing, is it? But we declare them anyway. So now you can see the non-polyol carbs is 10.4 grams. The total carbs is 20.3. We're legally declaring this one, but we're also telling you the total number minus the polyols, and of course we've already taken off the fibre, would be this number here. Now, it's not a legal thing, we don't have to declare that, but it means that you can understand that this is not going to spike your blood sugar. And I hope that explains now what these non-polyol carbs, or sometimes known as net carbs to some in the UK, but they shouldn't be called that. I hope this explains how it works, and that is why we do the total carbs and the non-polyol carbs too. So I hope that really helps. It's not the most obvious thing. So we've got the legal definition of total carbs. We've got the non-polyol sweetener carbs that are left over. And you can then see what's going to actually affect your blood sugar and what we have to legally declare, although not all of the legal declaration is going to affect your blood sugar. Now, if you are somebody who goes on total carbs only, even though we know fibre doesn't affect your blood sugar and polyols are the same, in our case, erythritol won't affect your blood sugar either, then that's fine. If you want to go in total carbs and you think that's too high for you, then that's fine. We're all adults, make your own choices. But the great thing about having these non-polyol carbs is that you can see what's actually impacting your blood sugar. And so a chocolate bar you might think is 20 grams, really it's only got about 10.4 grams that's going to affect your blood sugar. Anyway, I hope that helps. Any questions, just let me know. Email me anytime.